Hey you guys, it's Michelle and
Jen,
and we are Wellness Crew, and we are here to take you on a journey with us on our 300-hour yoga teacher training.
That's right.
Yeah, so we want you to be a part of our crew. Come on with us on this journey.
Let's go.
Yeah. Jen, I think before we start this video, we should tell them a little bit about who we are. Yeah?
Sounds good.
Sounds
Let's
good.
do it.
Okay, so Jen and I are sister-in-laws. Yeah. And about 7 years ago, we opened a yoga studio called Yoga Crew. And right before we opened the studio, we did our 200-hour yoga teacher training.
Correct.
And it was in person, right? And it was an awesome experience. Loved most of it, right? It's definitely work. Yeah, it's work.
It is.
Yeah, which is why here we are 7 years later. Now COVID hits, and then we choose to do a 300-hour.
Correct.
So I'd love to know from you, Jen. I know we started this together, but why did you decide now is the time?
Yeah. So one of the things that separates Michelle and I is that Michelle is actively a yoga teacher. So she took her 200 hour and then stepped right into that teacher role, whereas I took a little bit of a different spin. I took my yoga teacher training, the 200 hour, really for the knowledge base of the yoga principles, you know, how to correctly align yourself in positions and such like that. And of course, I've been using that for the past 7 years, but I never really stepped into that teacher voice. And with COVID and everything that's going on, September hit, you suggested it as something that you were going to do, and you were really confident in it. And at no point had I thought about taking the 300 hour. It wasn't even in my frame of mind, but there was something that hit me in September where it felt like, okay, it's time to grow. It's time to step out of that comfort zone, and this is what I need to do. And then what's been interesting is since we've committed, and by the way, we committed when we were doing a detox, a yoga teacher training, and then we started a new running program all in the same week. So that's how we do things.
Yeah, we go all in.
Anyway, more on that later. But since I've been taking it, I've been feeling the call to teach again.
That's awesome.
And what's interesting is I really feel as though it's been this evolution that's naturally happened.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how I step into that role, because I've used my teaching voice in other areas, in nutrition and coaching and mindset, and but never in like the physical yoga practice. So it's going to be interesting and fun to see where it goes next.
Yeah.
And you know, it's that newness that I think I needed from like the COVID fog.
Yes.
You know, the excitement, the something new, something different, and the expansion phase. So that those are my short reasons as to why I jumped in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people jump in because they want to deepen their practice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people do that, and it's wonderful. And I applaud you, lady. Yeah,
Stepping out.
Stepping out and stepping in, right?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's not a comfortable place for me. I've been okay with being in the background of Yoga Crew. I've been more than okay with being in the background of Yoga Crew. I really love, you know, being in the lobby and seeing everybody's faces and running the business aspect of it. And so it feels good to now be kind of called to teach and kind of expand on that. And I think it was going to be a good place for Yoga Crew, but also us to move forward. So,
yeah.
Anyway, good.
Yeah, here we go. I'm like pulling you along with me.
Oh,
okay?
man.
Here we go.
Awesome. Now, I will reciprocate because
I'd
love to know why you chose, because you were very confident in your decision, unlike me who just jumped on in.
Yeah. Well, I had been waiting, you know, for the right time, and really like for the last year prior to COVID had been really ready to get into the program. I was ready to not only deepen my personal skills and the practice for myself, but also I really wanted to bring more to my classes. I wanted to be able to teach my students on a different level, right? You know, you brought up this thing earlier, you talked about the ladder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And about how, you know, we opened the studio, we did the training, and we went to like the second floor of a house. Right. And so we've been sitting at the second floor of the house for a while, and it's time now to, you know, level up a little bit.
Yeah, it's time to elevate and learn and kind of to build on our very solid foundation of 7 years of being in this industry. It's now to kind of take the next step and be better.
And you know, for me, I was teaching a lot of kids yoga, and there was a lot of kids yoga, and I love teaching kids yoga and training. Oh, thank you. And training kids yoga classes. But they've gotten to the point where I was like, okay, I need this for me personally, and I want to do it for my students as well.
All right, Mish. Real talk.
Okay.
Why do you want to do a 300 hour?
I think that there are several reasons. However, a big thing for me is that I have that imposter syndrome that I think some people have, right?
I think most people have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I started to having the imposter syndrome after, teaching for 7 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that I have a lot of skills. I mean, I was a teacher before this, and I know I can teach, but you get to a point where it's like, am I really able to get this information and to serve the community in the way I want to, right? Am I the real thing, right?
Yeah, which is interesting because of course you are, right? You've been teaching for 7 years, you have a 200-hour RYT, you opened a yoga studio, you're facilitating these yoga teachers, yet still there's something there that makes you say, okay, I need to better myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really it comes down to like this whole imposter syndrome, which I experienced too. It's really just our own insecurities, right?
Yeah.
But these are the tools that help us overcome, right? So
Yeah.
like this is you taking a step in the right direction, or the forward direction in order to overcome,
and evolve, and that's the big thing, right? Evolving.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get to a point where I'm stagnant, where I'm like staying in the same place. And so when you're teaching yoga and you're teaching the same classes over and over again, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I need more.
Yeah, and that's interesting because it's like it's almost like you're in a cycle, and it's like, okay, I need to get out of the cycle, so like I can bring different and higher level teachings probably to my students, right?
Yeah,
because I'm thinking, I'm putting myself in your shoes, not that I'm a teacher, but
Hey, no, but because you're a student and you watch other teachers, right?
Yes.
But yeah, it's all about the evolution. And so that's really what brought me to this. Like, was I ready 100% with my kids at home and, everything going on during the pandemic? Maybe not. However, I was ready in the greater sense. I was ready for the evolution.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right, so real talk for you. Why did you want to do this?
All right. Yeah, so it's a difficult one because pre-COVID, it really straps around. Pre-COVID, I felt like I was in such a great place, and I was. I was really grounded and seeing the next steps and really feeling like I was evolving into who I am, like the whole purpose. And then COVID hit, and it wasn't like it was one day I lost it, right? It was just like these incremental steps, and day after day, week after week, and then months later, you really just wake up and you're like, oh, that thing that I was touching that was there, I felt so good in my body and my soul, like I'm missing it, and how do I get back to it? And it felt like I was doing all of the tools and the habits and what I knew that worked, but it still just wasn't sticking. And so when September rolled around and you mentioned that, I just thought, all right, maybe it's time for me to up level. Yeah. And really it comes down to just wanting to be better. And then something hit me, and someone, in one of my podcasting worlds, someone asked, what's the next evolution of yourself look like? Yeah. And this felt like a really wonderful way to explore that.
Awesome.
So what happens from here can only be a positive, because as we know from our 200 hour, if you've taken one or you're looking to take one, the level of growth that you have going into a pre-200 and then what you are after, like who you are after is a different person. Yeah. And I think the back of my mind, I knew that who I would be after this 300 hour would be a different person, and the person I wanted to evolve into. Yeah. And so that's really what made me go, now's the time. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, Michelle, I'll do it with you. Let's go.
Yes.
Yes. With open arms.
And here we are.
And here we are.
That's right. All right, so one of the things I think is really quite pertinent is really what are the obstacles that we see either ahead of us or that we're already experiencing, just like we're not in the perfect place in time in life to jump into a 300 hour, let's face it. So I'll speak first. So my obstacles are very simple. I have two little ones who are 4 and 2. And so mornings look like me doing my morning routine so that I am a happy, centered, loving person.
And you are.
Thank you. And then my day goes into, of course, working full time and then coming home doing the evening routine. And so really my obstacle is time.
Which I think is a lot of people's obstacle.
It is. And you think of a 300 hour, it's 300 hours.
Yeah.
So where are you going to fit those consistent time periods for you to learn the material?
Yeah.
So that's mine. And then I will say another obstacle of mine is probably internal as well, which you mentioned, the imposter syndrome. Of course, I feel that too, because, I own a yoga studio with Michelle and I don't teach in it. So of course I have a bit of that natural imposter syndrome because I'm leading in a different way. Yeah. I'm leading through the behind the scenes and more fluent influence standpoint versus like the person you see every day. And so that of course lends to a little bit of insecurity. But so I want to also use this as a way for me to overcome that. So the obstacle in that is really finding the internal strength to push back some of those limiting beliefs and knowing that as long as you're dedicating the time, it's going to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but in that, you have to do.
Did you, with the times, because it's definitely one of my obstacles as well. I have 2 kiddos at home as well, and my husband's working from home, and so we're all from home. And so time is a big thing for me as well. It's like, where am I going to fit it in the schedule?
Right.
But what did you do to try and fit it into your schedule?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I love to read, so one of the ways I decompress is I read, and so at night I read the books that either are assigned or facilitating the curriculum. But then also I found big blocks of time on the weekends. So my kids nap from 12 to 3 and I use that.
Lucky you.
I know. I do get a bonus.
Yeah.
My kids nap from 12 to 3 and so I use a lot of that time to do that. Now granted, that's 6 hours. It's not enough, but I've really just found little chunks of time that I can fit these little 2-hour segments in. And I do find that once I get into a groove, I let that groove go. So I don't as much as I try to structure the time, if I find myself in a groove, I just go with the groove because then I get a big chunk of it done.
Yeah.
And then my other obstacle is the practice teaching aspect of it because I haven't taught yoga. I've taught other platforms, but I need to just go and
just do it. Just do it.
So
yeah.
And you, what do you? Obviously, time.
Yeah, time.
Your kids are older.
My kids are older. Yeah, which means they're also a lot busier. So we're going to practice and all these different things.
Yeah.
And their schedule is kind of weird now at school, which is an obstacle. However, my kids go to school at 7:20, so it at least gets my day started earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But one of the big things for me is the fact that it's harder for me to physically be in a studio space to take a 300 hour because of my kids' schedule. We travel for BMX, we are dancing, we're doing all these things. So that was one of the reasons why doing the online version of this training was really, it kind of took away that obstacle for me. And I'm happy we did it, although I will say that it's harder for me to be an online learner.
Yeah.
So with you doing it with me, I have an accountability partner.
Yeah, I've found that's necessary. While we are older millennials, which I put a feather in my hat for, I don't know which side of it, the good or the bad, but it is a feather in my cap. We're not used to learning online.
Right.
So we learned we didn't even have cell phones. So it's a different way for us to learn, but I will tell you, I would not have said yes if we had to be in a physical space because my life, I can't fit it in.
Yeah, no way.
I don't have it.
Not
So,
right
it's a blessing.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
a blessing.
It is. Technology for the win.
That we found this online program in order to do it. And we have found that the accountability factor, although it can be a negative because when we're both off, then we're just off.
Then we're off because we like to hang out and talk and do other things.
When we're on, I promise.
So yeah, I mean, that was a big reason why we chose this program. I think it was online, and that took a huge worry and concern out of the decision factor.
Yeah, and that kind of lends to where we want to take you next, which in our next video, we really want to talk about how to structure online and how to set yourself up for success, and kind of learn from what we have found to be struggles, where we've fallen off and how we've got back on, and so that you can learn with us and hopefully not have to have that learning curve as we did.
Right.
So stay tuned. If you want to click on the next video, go ahead and go, and we'll see you later.
All right, bye guys.
Bye guys.
So as we transition out of this video, let's take a deep breath before you move on to the next, okay? Take a deep breath in. Sigh it out, let it go. Namaste.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.